Welcome to ZML 2020. Our very first speaker joins us from Germany. Yes, it's Peggy Salz, lead analyst at Mobile Groove, a 9-time author who's mining insights to redefine the future of how to engage with consumers across screens.
My presentation is The Emergence of Tribes and the Advance of Cultural Segmentation. But first, a few words about myself and my background and why I'm so interested in this topic. I'm a guest contributor for a variety of leading media outlets, looking at mobile apps, customer engagement, business innovation. I host podcasts, webcasts, educating marketers and mobile publishers around the world around strategies, frameworks they can harness to drive loyalty. And drawing from this work, drawing from these exclusive interviews, years of research, I want to highlight the most exciting trend that I see out there, which is the emergence of tribes and how marketers can form a discipline around the framework to listen, engage, speak the language of the tribe. And this is something that has accelerated because of COVID, as we'll see. So I just want to tell you what we'll be talking about. So the agenda is, where are we now? Who are we now? What matters to us now? What moves us in the future? So let's look at that, exactly that. Where are we now? In a word, probably no place we've ever been before. I mean, let's face it, we're emotionally drained, financially strained. We need reassurance. We need to know there's a way forward, but we also need a new narrative. And it's not an easy answer what that narrative needs to be. What should it be? Many brands and marketers, in my view, get high marks because they have shifted their campaigns, their communications. But I do want to show you an example of where we're coming from and why we have yet to evolve the narrative. I'm going to show a clip to you from YouTube. Something that I think it's important to note is that it's about addressing our immediate concerns and to build brand affinity. But however, as you'll see, some brands have a way to go yet. And this is the way it was at the beginning of the pandemic. You know, every commercial was the same. Many of you have already probably seen this as well. And it's 3 minutes and 40 seconds long, so I'm not going to play all of it, but you get the feeling that speaking the same language, but it's a bit redundant, cliche, somber music everywhere. I'll let the images speak for themselves.
When we first opened our doors.
Since 1926.
Since 1978.
For 60 years.
For 75 years.
For over 80 years.
In 90 years.
Over 100 years.
Nationwide has been on your side.
Restaurants have always been there for you.
Nissan has been with you through thick and thin.
We will do what we've always done.
Take care of people.
We're people.
People.
People. People.
People.
People and family.
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 Family. Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Families. Families. Families.
Even now. Especially now.
Especially now.
Right now.
Now more than ever.
More than ever.
Today, more than ever.
Today, more than ever.
In times like this.
At times like these.
During these difficult times.
In these troubled times.
Challenging times.
Challenging times indeed. So you get the feeling for what I'm trying to say here. The takeaway is to avoid cliche, Pollyannish phrases, everything will be fine. Instead, be direct, simple, clear in your tone of voice. It's about describing the problem, but be the solution. Just describe the problem. It's the solution that's important. And another important point that I want to make, and this is not just my personal opinion, but also reported in research. Morning Consult, for example, highlights good reasons why marketers can't go dark in this time. You know, it's not about disengaging from the moment. These are different times indeed. It's tempting to go silent, particularly dialing down ad spend. But the idea is that marketing needs to reassure and reflect the new reality. And as I said, new times indeed. I wanted to give you where we are. Let's look at some data that tells us where we are. So App Annie, for example, is a report that I've been looking at. There are lots of others out there, Apptopia and others, about how consumers have changed. Behavior has changed. It's mobile forever. And it's changed on mobile forever, rather. Consumers are spending more time and more money in app than ever. As I said, App Annie, first quarter of 2020, mobile app usage across all categories grew 40% year over year, hitting an all-time high. Time and money, so consumer spending on apps hit a high of $27 billion. And that's not all that has changed forever, because business has changed forever as well. And we see that the consumer has changed, business has changed. I love this quote from John Copeland: COVID-19 has changed business forever. And if it seems like a departure from the marketing playbook, that's because it is. So I'm going to look at putting together now the two of these and give you an idea of connecting the dots. So what has changed? It's all changing. Mobile has accelerated change, as I pointed out. Mobile first or mobile forced, whatever it is, we lead connected lives. And our lives play out on mobile. So it's digital adoption rates have advanced decades in days. I'm looking here at McKinsey research. There's other research out there showing all the different facets of our lives impacted by this. It's not to be understated. That's why I want to drive home the point with, I think, some key numbers as well. For example, telemedicine, right? Virtual appointments, 10x in 15 days. Measure e-commerce by just the increase in deliveries, 10 years in 8 weeks. Look at remote working, remote learning, huge. Also, of course, in India, but globally, right? 250 million students went online learning in 2 weeks. So it's a new world. Some say it's the new normal. Some say it's the evolving new normal. It's the next normal. We've heard the phrases. I've heard the phrases. I just want to drop it all, drop the normal, and just say we've changed. But of course, that's just the beginning of it. And that isn't all that's changed. Everything's changed. What I love here is drawing here from an interview I had with Amaryllis Liampati at Boston Consulting Group. Flows and funnels will never be the same. You know, the pandemic has altered the market landscape. That's the point I'm trying to make here. You know, accelerating digital transformation, obliterating the linear path from consideration to conversion. Fantastic quote from her, and I've kept in every slide the link to where I get the information. So, you know, I want to share, I want to talk about this. I want to encourage you to engage with it as well. In this case, it's coming up in an LTV magazine published by Adjust. The quote I love: to keep up with the pace of change, she says, marketers have to get to a constant and dynamic way of absorbing and understanding, even anticipating, that's key here, what consumers want and need. And if we're talking about that change, another thing that has to change is segmentation. Many could say you could retire static segments, models, personas. I would rather think that you need to adapt them. So it's about evolving, you know, pivoting marketing and messaging based on living and learning profile of customers, consumers, their unique passions, which brings me here to some fantastic, brilliant research from Kantar. And you'll be hearing about them today as well. So I don't want to steal their thunder, but I do want to give you an idea of what's going on here. And they're drawing from over 100,000 people's opinions in 60 plus markets to define the coronavirus consumer tribes. And what I love about this is because now we're talking about how people respond to these moments, you know, how they're reacting to the pandemic suggests this is the way marketers and marketing need to engage with these tribes. Again, coronavirus tribes, the topic of my talk about the tribes. Ostriches, for example, 12% of consumers, They're like the ostriches, right? I don't know what the fuss is about. I don't care. Others, we have que seras, hibernators. I accept the situation. I don't need to be updated constantly. Once you start to view your consumers, your audience through this type of lens, understanding the traits of each tribe will help you build a comprehensive communications and brand framework that drives deeper connection. Again, the whole idea is that there is an evolving profile of the tribe members, of us, of all of us. We are in these tribes, and it's about marketers, developing the content, developing the messaging. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but engaging with the tribe members and actually changing those models. And I did say change because everything is changing. It's not surprising. The models also change. They're dynamic. The segments are changing. Interestingly enough, and this is new data, again, you'll probably see more from Kantar today as well. You have the precarious worriers, most anxious about the virus. This group, as you could expect, has increased in several countries. For example, Spain, 25% versus 18%. Poland, 24% versus 16% not very long ago. The whole point, as Rosie Hawkins, who is Kantar's chief offer and innovation officer, told me recently in an interview, is that in the short to mid-term, these coronavirus tribes will become the predominant segmentation. So with that in mind, the question becomes, how do we build a brand action framework for the tribes, for each tribe? Maybe not just the coronavirus tribes, other tribes. And I want to stress that there are other models as well. And for that, I'd like to step back and talk about the challenge of adapting content and experiences to align with these tribes. It's going to be a challenge, but fortunately, we have some blueprints. My personal favorite, I have to say, has been around for a while. It's Reddit. And if you don't know of Reddit, I'll just give you some background. You should, because it's an interesting, fascinating platform driving deep customer connection through understanding. And that's what's in the DNA of Reddit. So it's 430 plus million visitors, over 100,000 active communities. And as I said, it's that type of platform where you're able to communicate, you're engaging with an audience, they're engaging with each other, and therefore it's unduplicated audience reach. So the whole point is here that people are involved in conversations that they don't engage on elsewhere, on other platforms. Now, who's the person, right? So this is Will Cady, head of brand strategy at Reddit. This is my own picture because I was at Mobile Spree. I was at this talk, and I have to say it left a lasting impression because he was the first, to his credit, to really draw my attention to cultural segmentation, how brands can tap into these trusted conversations taking place, developing campaigns, capabilities that segment audiences by cultures and passion points, not just behaviors. And this is key to what I'm discussing here because as he highlighted it to me, and I'm giving it to you, it's all about marketing to the community and the culture. So how do we do this? In his view, and I'm using these words, I'm giving them here as part of a framework, and I'll be talking about some other frameworks to do this because I think this is very important. First, you have to get into the mindset of where we are. We're talking about the emergence of tribes. Now I want to talk about that being the case. I've shown you Kantar segmentation, talking about Reddit. What do you need? How do you market to community and culture? Not segments. Community and culture, living, learning segmentation. One point, he brings up 3 pillars. Language, literally speaking to them, jargon, slang. Then there's tools, there's rituals, roles, what members do, how they moderate discussion, how they interact with each other. And then very key, thirdly, is experience. Experience, what moves them. Understanding that, you have a seat at that table, You have a voice in that community. And it's all about, on top of that, understanding what moves them is understanding the trends that matter. And understanding this gives you a view into the future, which is where I want to take us now. So the question becomes, what matters to us now? Well, I can say 6 months into the pandemic, since March, since we all started being remote, having Zoom calls, doing this sort of thing, connecting virtually, everything's changed. And everything has changed because we have changed as well. If we accept all of this and put it together, connect the dots, we're seeing very much that we have become tribes, all of us, We're confined to quarters. We're defined by our interests, not by proximity, not by going out into the real world, but in our minds, in our mindset. So therefore, segmentation is dynamic. But it's not about demographics. It's also psychographic segmentation as well. So if we put this all together, we come up with what I want to present as guiding principles for engaging with tribes. We know that we have evolved into tribes. Now the question is, how do we communicate appropriately and effectively with tribes? So first of all, find out what the tribes value most. And what they value most is key to motivating and activating them at scale. And again, if we go back to Kantar, that provides a very good starting point. It's a different type of segmentation. If we think about Boston Consulting Group, flows, funnels, forget them. We have to start over. What we use as our North Star is what matters most. What matters most to people. Once you figure that out, you also have to start thinking about mapping the trails. We are digital. As App Annie shows, for example, we are mobile, we are digital. Use that data in those moments, use data from the app, use data from the journey, but use it to frame models and map a meaningful, individualized, that's key here, individualized customer life cycle. Then from there, you can drive deeper communication with the tribe because you've understood what they value. You've understood that digital breadcrumb trail that they're leaving that you can follow, and appropriately is what I want to stress here. Then drive the deeper connection rather with them. And ultimately what I want to put forth, because I have some examples I want to share with you, is transcend boundaries, because tribes are united by beliefs. They don't know real boundaries. They set them, and they are no longer set. It's not physical boundaries, they're virtual boundaries. So if you understand that, you can engage segments globally, and that's my point. I'll get to that in a moment. But first, of course of all, it starts with a framework. How do you frame this? How do you understand people, tribes? Well, looking to, I think, how you look at how they engage with your app is a great way to start. Now, this is a model. There are others. I'll get to those. This is a model, AIC, a data investigation project conducted by Feature, which is a growth consultancy, in partnership with CleverTap, an AI-powered customer lifecycle and user retention platform. And what we're seeing here, if you look at it, and you have to look at it from bottom to top, is you're seeing a nuanced way, a view of user engagement, a roadmap to increase retention. If we look at sort of acknowledgement, that's when people come into the app. Then there's interest, they're interacting with it, conversion, and how they act, because this is a roadmap to increase retention ultimately. This allows marketers to assess the value of user engagement and the potential impact on their business. So let's just imagine at the bottom of the pyramid, more people are coming in, more consumers are coming in, they're acknowledging it, but it's more than are completing the events, the conversion at the top. Okay, so what does that tell you? The framework tells you, perhaps review your onboarding because your app strategy, it's dropping off a cliff. There's some sort of disconnect maybe your approach to acquiring your audience. You're acquiring the wrong audience, or you're trying to acquire the wrong audience. The bottom line is that read it as a signal about how you can evolve your campaigns and how you can match that and build a life cycle, the lifetime journey, understanding and mapping again the journey. If it's the other way around, let's say, for example, acknowledgement is going well, conversion is going super well, it's going really well. Well, that's a signal that you can scale up your campaign, increase spend, aim high, because you can, right? It's about matching the needs of the tribe throughout the journey. AIC, as I said, is a framework. It allows you to assess engagement, architect the journey. It's a great model. It's not, however, the only one. You can also choose to use AARRR, which stands for acquisition, activation, retention, revenue referral. I won't go into detail about these. It's to set a framework to get you thinking about how you can be approaching this, how you can be building and mapping that trail, the tribes I'm telling you about. And here's a fun one before I can move on with the frameworks, because you can be brave, right? This is up to you as marketers, right? This here, for example, is an interview I did on Retention Masterclass, which is a show I co-host with fellow Forbes contributor John Kurtzier. And this is Jessie Hanley. This is one of our shows. She's over at Intuit, where she's head of retention, growth marketing leader. And she has a different one, right? And I think this is great. It literally is great, actually, no pun intended. It's about greet, ramp, evolve, amplify, treasure. Sky's the limit here. My point is that to interact with tribes, you have to map that journey, and you have to use a model, and you have a choice, and you can make them up. I mean, more power to her. Jessie came up with her own, Intuit rather, but the point is that you have to choose a framework because you need to understand the actions, map the journey. Now, you've mapped the journey. You've figured out its acknowledgement, interest, and conversion. You've got great, whatever works for you. The next question is, you choose a framework to understand the actions of the tribe. Now, how do you interact with the tribe? What do you do? How do you say it, right? And this is not a small point, because Kantar and other research, they tell us that the message is very important. It has to be effective. It has to be emotive. The video I showed you at the start, right? Can't be cliche. We can't use that wording. We can't use that narrative. We need to evolve the narrative. We need to evolve the segmentation. And that's what's going on here. So I'm just pointing you to a way of doing this is looking at Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. That's telling us an understanding of emotions, because guess what? There's 34,000 emotions that we can have as human beings. And the new importance of emotion in our messaging, now more than ever, I hate to say it, but yes, now more than ever in these times, it's about understanding the emotions and there are degrees of each, but how can marketers apply this? We know we have these emotions. We know that the messaging will trigger one or the other or degrees of each, but then how do we apply this to our marketing? And again, there's another model, well, there's a tool actually, that I'm very excited about, because CleverTap, which is also one of the companies sponsoring my weekly podcast, Mobile Presence, used this, one of the latest episodes in my podcast rather, to walk me through this model. And it's interesting because it's also a tool that is based on the emotion wheel to automate engagement campaigns. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it really is. You can try it out. I've got the link there. You put your messaging on one side and you can see the motions that you trigger on the other. You can tweak it. You can say, well, I didn't want to deliver something about anticipation. I mean, they've taken the wheel that I've shown you before, and we've gone from 8 down into 5, right? We've got surprise, joy, trust, anticipation, fear of missing out. You know, these are emotions present in messages, and what you need to do as a marketer, what you can do, is tweak and refine to boost conversion. So as I was talking to Sunil Thomas, who's CleverTap CEO, he put it to me in the interview that I was doing, it's about the building blocks here. In the case of the messaging, you're working towards the final goal of creating prescriptive journeys to systematically encourage users to deeper levels of engagement. And, this is a great way to see in real time, near real time perhaps, you put in your messaging, you can see what you're encouraging and what you're triggering, ultimately to that goal of encouraging deeper engagement. And that is so central right now. So I just want to pause and think about the importance of emotion, because emotion drives behavior, right? One of the reasons I've shown you this tool in the first place is because marketers have to gain insights into the emotions in the campaigns they're sending out. And as tribes, we're moved by our emotions. We're moved by our beliefs. And that brings me to the future. What moves us, right? It's about emotion. I'm watching the trend, the advance of the tribes, communities joined by belief and culture, and marketers gain insights on emotions, campaigns they're sending out using the tool and other tools, what have you. But the point is that we are moved by our emotions, and marketers need to connect to those emotions. So I want to leave you with that thought. What moves us in the future? Well, here I have some interesting research. I've been looking into this, and I'm seeing that we're at the beginning of something where I just like to say that it's a different type of tribe, because we're a different sort of global community, and we're joined by belief, we're joined by culture, cultural segmentation because of our beliefs. I want to give you some examples of what I'm seeing out there. So one, for example, and I've written about this, I've also done a podcast about it, I'm really excited about, is Shiro's. That's actually, by the way, also beginning in India. I expect it to go global. It is already global, but I expect it to have real global impact, because this is the largest woman-only social platform. I've spoken to Sari Shahal. She's the founder and CEO. She tells me this is about building a woman's internet on core values. Again, core values, bringing together the tribe. In her case, the values of safety for women, really important, trust, empathy. She's got 21 million members worldwide, growing globally, growing daily, and also her vision, right? The vision for the effective use of engagement marketing, her effective use rather, has brought this together. Her vision is about bringing women together, helping them up the ladder, allowing for a positive work balance, being there, but not being there in the sense of what I showed you at the very start, not that narrative of we're here for you. It's something very different. And interestingly, involving brands in that conversation, but in an appropriate way. I think that's key here. Having the language of the tribe, understanding the tribe, giving the tribe an experience, in this case of trust building experience as well, positive experience. Another example I want to draw your attention to is in the Philippines. Kumu, another social network in a way, uniting more than 5 million Gen Z and millennial Filipinos across 50 countries. The whole idea here is that, transnational, tight-knit communities, tight-knit tribes. And in his case, I've talked to Roland Ross. I've also interviewed him. We'll get to that in a moment. This is, in its heart, it's a social app. It's a live streaming platform. It has channels for communication, commerce, community, allows you to watch stuff, allows you to buy stuff, allows you to connect with your favorite live streamers. And he's been doing that, right? He's had brands in that conversation, food delivery apps. He has a wallet for purchases. talking to Esquire, Cosmopolitan, these types of organizations, because he's building a tight-knit transnational community, as I said, across 50 countries. And this brings us to the last point I had. It's about transcending boundaries. It's an ambitious goal to build this. It's an ambitious goal to reach tribes across boundaries, to transcend those boundaries. But it is possible. Roland is doing it. Kumu is doing it. I want to share with you his vision in his own words for where this is going, because I think that it's very key to understand, start this off, very key to understand what the possibilities are and the opportunities for brands to be in this conversation.
Well, the big thing is, according to Google Temasek, right, the Philippine digital GDP is going to increase dramatically over the next 3 to 4 years. So we do have a plan to really make sure that we capture as much market share as we can of the digital GDP of the Philippines. And so that's going to be a $25 billion economy in the Philippines, but also not counting the monetization of global Filipinos all around the world, which is also worth, tens of billions of dollars. So that's one. Now, two, and I think it's a little bit too early, but like I said, depending on who that investor is on the Series B, I truly believe we've created a very strong playbook on how to execute capturing the Gen Z and millennial attention span of emerging markets who have millions of people around the world who send billions of dollars back home. And again, that's 12 or 13 different markets and about 2 to 3 billion people that we could rinse and repeat such a strategy. However, how I would do it is I would stay focused on the Philippines and then build out some partnership with those other markets. So I would kind of split it between those kind of two things.
So with that, I just want to leave that as a thought. The future of tribes is to transcend boundaries, uniting people, culture, beliefs, speaking their language, giving them tools, providing amazing experiences, which is what marketers are supposed to do, what you're all aiming to do here to learn how to do at CML. Thank you so much.